Hi everybody, Mrs. Johnson here. We have our very first SAT lesson today. I have everything filled out already. I'm just going to talk through each example to kind of save some time. Make sure that you're aware that most classes are going to be optional on Fridays. So if you are watching this video and you feel very confused, like you need me to go slower, you need somebody to explain some certain questions you might have, please utilize those Fridays and come in because we can definitely clear up whatever misconceptions you have. You spent a ton of time in Algebra 1 and also in Algebra 2 talking about linear equations. And the SAT is very, they really want you to know what stuff is about linear equations and linear modeling. There's tons of questions about them. Okay, so I'm going to have a few things that are filled out up here that I want you to make sure that you're comfortable with. We have a slope formula right here. Again, you can pause the video, fill this out, and then come back to it. And I have some key words within the wording of like all these word problems we're going to do that remind you or that point out that they're asking about the slope versus the y-intercept. These are some other keywords over here. So slope has to do with like the rate of change. I'm sure you've heard that before. If you see the word per or each or any sort of an increase or decrease, those are all clues that we're talking about slope. And again, here's the slope formula. Make sure that you know the difference between x and y in an ordered pair. The x is the first number, the y is the second number. What else? We have slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and remember that the m is the slope, the number that's with the x, and remember that the b is the y-intercept. Some common things about slopes: if it's going up left to right, it is a positive slope. If it's going down left to right, it's a negative slope. A flat slope, think of that as a treadmill. You put it on 0 unless you want to be running at an incline. And a treadmill would be impossible to run on. If it was straight up and down, that is called undefined. The b is the y-intercept, like we talked about already, and some key words about the y-intercept. You'll see initial, beginning, starting, something like that. And then remember how to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. You plug in 0 for y to find x. You plug in 0 for x to find y. I'm going to go through these examples quickly. And again, if you have some questions on something, make sure you clarify or you ask. I will also post this answer key to Schoology as well. Okay, we've got a total cost. We have leasing a car for 36 months and they give us an equation. And it's really important to know what the X stands for in all of these word problems. In this case, X is the monthly payment and they're telling you the monthly payment is $400. That is exactly how I know to plug in 400 for X right here. And you can see my work here. I did the calculations and you get $5,400. The answer is C. Very basic problem just to start off with. How about number 2? For number 2, if they give you 2 points, I think that you could process of eliminate really quickly. Did you notice that this point is the y-intercept, 0, 3? Where actually does that go? 0, 3. That ordered pair is right here. That's my ordered pair. And you can see that that means that this is not a correct answer and this is not a correct answer because that second number that doesn't have the x with it is the y-intercept. So I've narrowed it down to a 50-50 shot already, which is fantastic. If you're guessing, if you're running out of time, make sure that you eliminate as many answer choices as you can. And then I did the slope formula, which is above, which you copied down, in order to tell me that the slope is 4, and that matches up with this one and not the 7. That is why C is the answer for number 2. Okay, number 3. This is an example where we don't have choices. We have to actually type in what our answer is. And so anyways, let's see, we've got a model that has a certain animal that weighs 241 pounds. When it was born, initial, starting, beginning, that's my y-intercept. When this thing was born, whatever animal it weighed 240 pounds. Wow, must have been like an elephant or a giraffe or something because that is a large birth weight, right? But when it was born, that's your initial, your starting amount. That's my b, my y-intercept. You can see I'm starting to do my y equals mx plus b right here. My y-intercept is 241. And the animal gained 3 pounds per day. Remember that word per that you wrote down as a keyword for slope? That means that your slope is 3. Okay, and they're telling me that f of x equals a plus bx. So just beware that they're kind of, I guess they reversed it. It can be y equals mx plus b, or it can be b plus mx. In this case, they're changing the letters on us. They're using a and b. That's okay. The b is the slope. The a is the y-intercept. And so in this case, they're telling us what is the value of a, and a right here is the y-intercept because it is the number that's not with x. And the A right here is 241. It's the number that's not with X. So I'm just typing in 241. For number 4, let's see, a team of workers, they're moving cargo off a ship. You can see that I'm kind of scanning the words here, looking for formulas. And this question is asking about the x-intercept. Okay, I know how to find the x-intercept. You plug in 0 for y. Okay, so I'm doing that here. I plugged in 0 for y. I've got 120 minus 25x. When you solve that for x, I'm going to bring the 25 over to this side by adding it, so it becomes positive. And then I still have the 120 over here. Divide both sides by 25, you get 4.8. And why do 2 of our answers have 4.8 in them? We have to read them really carefully. A lot of times on the SAT, you can eliminate 2 answer choices right away, but then you have to think kind of hard about the difference between the other 2 remaining. The team will have moved all the cargo in about 4.8 hours, or the team has been moving about 4.8 tons. Okay, what's the label on the 4.8? The 4.8 is the X value, and they're telling us that X is hours. So let's look really carefully and be very intentional about choosing the answer that has the 4.8 in it. The X is supposed to be labeled hours. That's why I put hours right here and I underlined it, and that is how I know that A is the right answer and not B. Okay, for number 5, I have another equation. I think this is an equation that we already used earlier. And so it has an x-intercept when you plug in 0 for y. It has a y-intercept when you plug in 0 for x, and it wants to find both intercepts and then add them together. Okay, so I have this equation. To find the x-intercept, you plug in 0 for y, so I put a 0 right here, and you solve it, and you get -7. That's the x. When you want to find the y-intercept, you plug in 0 for x, so the 0 goes right here, and you solve it, and you get 28 for y. And the answer that we have to put is a plus b, which means I am going to add these 2 numbers together, which gives me 21 as the sum, and that is why A is the answer for that one. For number 6, we have, there will be several questions where they actually give you a graph, and they ask you questions about the graph. So again, this is just a line. Y equals mx plus b. It looks like we have a y-intercept right here, and I can figure out by counting what the slope is, up and over, up and over, up and over. And it says, according to the graph, what is the cost for each additional mile? Those have some keywords in there that are telling us about the slope. It's asking about the slope. Notice how the y-intercept right here is 3, and of course that's one of the answer choices because they want you to know the difference between like the context of the slope and the y-intercept. But this is asking us each additional mile, those wording that we wrote down, the keywords at the top of the page, are telling me that they want to know about the slope. So if you zoom in here, it looks like we're going up 2 over 1. And look at these, look at the scale really closely. This is from 0 to 5, which tells me that every single line here is just 1 unit, $1, if you will. So I'm going up $2, and I'm going over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are all going by ones also. I'm going over just 1 mile. So I'm going to write that as a ratio just to keep my work straight. It doesn't take very long, but I don't want to make a silly mistake here. Up 2, write 1, and up is $2. I went up $2 because the up down label is in dollars, and I went right 1 mile because the X label is miles. And so what is the cost for each additional mile in dollars? Up $2 per mile. $2 is the answer. I've got 3 left. I have an equation here, and if it freaks you out that there's no y-intercept, it's okay. You can put a +0 there if you want to, because I know you're used to seeing like y equals mx plus b. Okay, you can put in a +0 if you want to. It's just a normal like linear equation. And it's asking us what's the best interpretation of the 16, which is the slope. And I know it's the slope because it's the number with the t. Usually we use an x, but in this case, they're saying that they're doing t for time. Okay. And so the slope, remember your keywords. We have a rate of change. We have increase, decrease, per or each. Those are all the words that I'm searching through my answer choices for. I'm eliminating totals. Slope is for each additional x value, which in this case is for every single second. So I'm eliminating the numbers that, or the choices that have totals on them. The difference between the 16 and the 1 over 16 is that the x in this case is the t, because looking at those two equations, they're just swapping out x for t, and t is time. And so therefore, the rate is the x value is moving t, let's see, or no, it's d inches for t time. And so in that case, it's 16 inches per second, and it's not 1 over 16 inches per second. I am not exactly sure if what I was saying was totally making sense here. That got a little bit confusing. I'm going to kind of explain in a different way in case you were still a little stuck on this question. In this case, we have a y-intercept of 0, and I'm going up 16 over 1. So my next dot goes right here. This is what the equation looks like, okay? And on the x-axis, I have t. The x here is t, and t represents time. Okay, on the y-axis, I have d. That's what the y is. So this axis is going to be labeled d, which is distance. Okay, so I'm going to put distance. Okay, and so it's asking me about the slope. How do I know the difference between the 16 and the 1 over 16? Because for the slope, if I go from 0, 0 to 1 comma 16, I'm going up 16 over 1. I'm going up 16 as the distance in inches, up 16 inches over 1 second. That's exactly what this says. I'm not going up 1 over 16. It's 16 over 1. Another thing you could do to help you with the slope here when it's not a fraction is you could make it into a fraction. That just means that you're going up 16 units and you're going over 1. That is exactly what this equation is telling me to do for the graph. That is why C is the right answer, and not D, which is 1 over 16. All right, we've got two more. Here's another graph that we need to look at. And we have an equation that has been graphed here. It is a linear function, and it's asking again about the slope. So you can see that I zoomed in right here, and I did the slope from this point to this point, and it looks like I went up 1 box and over 1 box. But what does 1 box represent right here? Look at your scale on the y-axis. This is where they will kind of trick you. It's really important life skill to be able to pay attention to detail, right? This does not represent 1 unit. How many units does it represent? This in here, this line would be 125. And to go up from 125 to 150, it looks like we're going up 25 units. This box represents 1 unit. This box represents 25 units. So my slope is actually up 25 over 1. Be really careful. This is different from this problem up here because every box was 1 unit because it went 0 to 5, and every box here was 1 unit. This is where they will trick you again. So we have to pay very close attention to the scale of the axes. It looks like we're going up 25 over 1. That is what the increments are on the y-axis. So up 25 over 1, and 25 right here, it tells us that the total cost is y in dollars. So the y-axis is labeled in dollars, and it's telling us that the x, this axis, is number of games. So I'm going to put number of games. And so I'm going up $25, and I'm going over 1 game. And that is how to get from every single point to every single point. You can pick any 2 points on that line and still get the same slope. So what does the slope tell us? Each game, 1 game in the denominator, costs $25. I'm going up $25 each game. A is the correct answer. It's not a total cost. The video game system, that again, that's not, it's per game. That is what the slope has to do with. Each game costs $100. That is not true because it's actually 25. Okay. Last problem, you guys. According to a model, we can, let's see, we can take the head width of a bumblebee. Can you imagine measuring the width of a bumblebee's head? You can estimate it, because who wants to actually measure it, by adding 0.6 to 4 times the body weight. It's probably easier to weigh a bee than it is to measure their head. Am I right? So anyways, I am going to translate this into a mathematical sentence. And notice I'm not using x's and y's. I'm actually using head width and body weight. But it says that you can take the head width, and it can be estimated by, so I'm putting an equal sign, adding 0.6, that means positive 0.6 plus 4 times the body weight. So 4 times the body weight. Do you see how like one step at a time you can write the equation of whatever is being told to you in words? According to the model, what would be the head width? I need to solve for this. So notice I'm leaving it blank, or you can put an X there, or a Y, or an H for head, or a W for width. If the body weight is 0.5. So I'm putting 0.5 in for the body weight, which goes right there. And then you just crunch this number, you get 2.6. Again, it's not multiple choice. This is one where you would type 2.6, hit enter, and you would crush it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully see you on an optional Friday, you guys.